The emergency signal came at midnight. Senator Gregory Lane was sleeping in his office when the red light began to flash. He had seen many distress calls in his 30 years of service, but something about this one made his hands shake as he pressed the button to play the message. A face appeared on the screen. It was not human. The creature had large black eyes and thin arms covered in soft blue scales. Its voice was weak and filled with fear. "This is Elder Vorath of the Volrani people. Our world is dying. The Keth Dominion has surrounded our planet with 300 warships. They will destroy us within days. We send this message not because we expect rescue. We send it because we want the universe to remember that we existed. We were a peaceful people. We never harmed anyone. And now we will be gone." The message ended. Senator Lane sat in silence for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone and called Admiral Daniel Carter. "Did you receive the Volrani signal?" Lane asked. "I did," Carter replied. His voice was heavy. "I know what you are thinking, Senator, and I need to tell you that it is impossible. The Keth have 300 ships. We have 47. If we go to war for the Volrani, we will lose everything. Do you remember what the Volrani did for us?" Lane asked quietly. There was silence on the other end of the line. Admiral Carter did not answer, but Lane knew that he remembered. Everyone on Earth remembered, even if they did not like to talk about it. 60 years ago, humanity almost died. An asteroid the size of a small moon struck the Pacific Ocean. The impact killed 2 billion people in the first hour. The dust cloud that followed blocked the sun for 3 years. Crops failed. Cities fell. Humanity was starving to death. Earth sent distress signals to every known civilization in the galaxy. They begged for help. They promised anything in return. But no one answered. The great empires looked at humanity and saw a primitive species not worth saving. The Keth Dominion laughed at their suffering. The merchant guilds calculated that there was no profit in rescue. One by one, every door closed. Except one. The Volrani were not a powerful species. They had no military. They had no great wealth. They were simple farmers who lived on a quiet world at the edge of known space. But when they heard humanity's cry for help, they did something that shocked the entire galaxy. They sent their harvest fleet. Every ship they had. They loaded those ships with food, medicine, and seeds. They sent their best scientists to help repair Earth's damaged atmosphere. They gave everything they had to save a species they had never met, and they asked for nothing in return. Dr. Lisa Morgan was 7 years old when the Volrani ships arrived. She remembered standing in a refugee camp, her stomach empty for days, watching the strange blue creatures walk down the ramp of their ship. She remembered how one of them knelt beside her and placed a piece of fruit in her hands. She had never tasted anything so sweet. Now Dr. Morgan was 67 years old, and she stood before the Galactic Council with tears in her eyes. "The Volrani saved us," she said. Her voice echoed through the great hall. "They did not know us. They had no reason to help us. But they came anyway. They gave us their food while their own people went hungry. They shared their technology without asking for payment. They treated us like family when everyone else treated us like animals." She paused and looked at the faces around her. Some looked away in shame. Others pretended not to care. "Now they are dying," Dr. Morgan continued. "The Keth will destroy them. And we sit here counting our ships and calculating our odds. Is this who we are? Is this what humanity has become?" Admiral Carter stood up slowly. He was an old man now, with white hair and tired eyes. He had fought many battles in his life. He had lost many friends. He knew better than anyone what war would cost. "Dr. Morgan is right," he said. "The numbers say we cannot win this fight. The numbers say we should stay home and let the Volrani die. But I did not become a soldier to follow numbers. I became a soldier to protect those who cannot protect themselves. He turned to face Senator Lane. I cannot order my people to die for a lost cause, but I can ask for volunteers. And I believe that when humanity understands what is at stake, they will answer. Senator Lane nodded slowly. Then let us ask them. The call went out across Earth that night. The government explained the situation honestly. The Velrani were facing death. The enemy was too strong. Victory was unlikely. But the Velrani had once saved humanity when no one else would. Now it was time to repay that debt. The response was immediate. Soldiers who had retired years ago reported for duty. Pilots who had never seen combat volunteered to fly. Civilians offered to convert their cargo ships into weapon platforms. Within 48 hours, humanity's fleet grew from 47 ships to 53. It was still not enough, but it was something. Captain Kevin Brooks stood on the bridge of the U.S. Resolute, watching the fleet assemble. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Amanda Cole, handed him a report on the enemy forces. 300 Keth warships, she said, each one twice the size of ours. Their weapons are more advanced. Their shields are stronger. By every measure, we should lose. Captain Brooks smiled. Then, it is a good thing we are not fighting by their measures. He pressed the button on his command chair and spoke to his crew. In a few hours, we will jump to Velrani space. Many of us will not come back. But I want you to remember why we are going. 60 years ago, we were dying. The Velrani gave us life. Now they are dying. And we will give them the same gift. Not because we expect to win, but because some debts are worth dying for. Admiral Carter's voice came over the fleet communication system. His words were simple and clear. All ships, prepare for jump. We are going to save our friends. The fleet vanished into the darkness of space, heading toward a battle that would change the galaxy forever. The human fleet traveled through space for 3 days. During that time, Captain Kevin Brooks barely slept. He spent his hours studying everything known about the Keth Dominion, their tactics, their weapons, their weaknesses. He found very few weaknesses. Lieutenant Amanda Cole worked beside him, running simulations on her computer. Every simulation ended the same way. The human fleet was destroyed. The Velrani homeworld was burned. Nothing they tried made any difference. There has to be something, Brooks said, rubbing his tired eyes. No enemy is perfect. Everyone has a blind spot. Cole leaned back in her chair and thought for a moment. The Keth have conquered dozens of worlds. They have never lost a major battle. Do you know why? Superior firepower, Brooks answered. That is part of it. But the real reason is that no one ever fights back. When the Keth arrive, most species surrender immediately. They know they cannot win, so they do not try. The Keth have never faced an enemy that refused to give up. Brooks looked at her. You think that is their weakness? I think they do not understand sacrifice, Cole said. They fight for power and territory. They cannot imagine why anyone would die for something they cannot own. That confusion might give us an advantage. Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Morgan traveled ahead of the fleet in a small diplomatic ship. She reached the Velrani homeworld 2 days before the human forces would arrive. What she found there broke her heart. The Velrani were preparing to die. Families gathered in their homes to spend their final hours together. Parents held their children close. The streets were quiet. There was no panic. There was no screaming. The Velrani simply accepted their fate with dignity and sadness. Ambassador Talus met Dr. Morgan at the landing platform. He was older now. His blue scales faded to pale gray. She had known him for 40 years. He had been her guide when she first studied Velrani culture as a young scientist. Lisa, he said softly, why have you come? It is not safe here. I came to tell you that help is on the way. she replied. "The human fleet is coming. They will be here in 2 days." Talus stared at her. His large eyes blinked slowly, as if he could not understand her words. "That is not possible," he said. "We sent our distress signal as a formality. We never expected anyone to answer. The humans have so few ships. They cannot defeat the Keth." "They know that," Dr. Morgan said. "They are coming anyway." Talus was silent for a long moment. Then he asked a question that Dr. Morgan would never forget. "What do the humans want in return?" Dr. Morgan smiled sadly. "Nothing. You saved us once without asking for payment. We will do the same for you." Talus did not seem to understand. Among most galactic species, nothing was given freely. Every gift came with expectations. Every favor created a debt that must be repaid with interest. The idea that humans would risk everything for nothing in return was beyond his experience. Dr. Morgan took his hands in hers. "Let me take you to Elder Vorth. I need to speak with your leader." They found Elder Vorth in the underground shelters beneath the capital city. The old Velreni leader was overseeing the evacuation of children to the deepest tunnels. His movements were slow and tired, but his voice remained calm as he directed his people. When he saw Dr. Morgan, his eyes widened with surprise. "Dr. Morgan, I remember you. You were one of the human children we rescued many years ago." "I was," she said. "And I remember you. You were the one who decided to send your fleet to save Earth. You convinced your people to give everything they had to strangers." Elder Vorth lowered his head. "That was a different time. We were younger then. We believed that kindness would spread through the universe like seeds in the wind. We were foolish." "You were not foolish," Dr. Morgan said firmly. "You were right. The kindness you showed us did spread. It spread through every human who survived because of your help. It spread to our children and their children. And now it is spread back to you." She told him about the human fleet. She told him about the volunteers who had given up their safety to fight for the Varani. She told him about Admiral Carter and Captain Brooks and Lieutenant Cole and all the others who were racing through space at that very moment. Elder Vorth listened without speaking. When she finished, he turned away from her and looked at the Voreen children being led into the shelters. His shoulders shook slightly. "I do not know what to say," he whispered. "For 60 years, I wondered if our sacrifice for humanity mattered. I wondered if kindness was truly a weakness, as the other species told us. Now I have my answer." Far away, Empress Isthera of the Keth Dominion sat on her throne and read the intelligence report. A small fleet of human ships was approaching Velreni space. 53 vessels against her 300. High General Morketh stood before her, waiting for orders. "Should we send additional forces, Empress?" he asked. Zithara laughed coldly. "For 53 ships? Do not waste my time with such nonsense. The humans are no threat. They are barely capable of building starships. Destroy them quickly and proceed with the conquest." "As you command," Morketh replied. But as he left the throne room, he felt something he had not felt in many years. Doubt. He had studied human history. He knew what they had done to survive on their harsh planet. He knew that they did not surrender easily. Perhaps the Empress was wrong. Perhaps these humans would be different from every other species the Keth had conquered. He pushed the thought away. It did not matter. No matter how brave the humans were, they could not change the mathematics of war. Or so he believed. The human fleet arrived at the edge of Velreni space on a cold morning. Captain Kevin Brooks stood on the bridge of the UES Resolute and looked at the enemy forces arranged before him. The Keth warships filled his view screen like a wall of metal and death. 300 vessels, each one bristling with weapons. Each one crewed by soldiers who had never known defeat. Behind him, Lieutenant Amanda Cole read the sensor data aloud. Her voice was steady, but Brooks could hear the fear beneath her words. 312 Keth warships confirmed. 64 heavy cruisers. 200 assault frigates. 48 support vessels. And 1 command ship at the center of their formation. The command ship, Brooks said. That is where High General Morkith will be. If we can reach it, we can cut off their coordination. That is a very big if, sir, Cole replied. Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication system. He was aboard the UES Guardian, the flagship of the human fleet. All captains, this is Admiral Carter. The enemy outnumbers us 6-1. Our weapons are weaker. Our shields are thinner. By every standard measurement, we have already lost this battle. He paused. The silence stretched across the fleet. But we are not here to win by their standards. We are here to hold the line. Every minute we fight is another minute for Valoran civilians to escape. Every ship we sacrifice is another transport that reaches safety. Our victory is not measured in enemy ships destroyed. It is measured in innocent lives saved. Brooks felt his crew stand a little taller at those words. All ships, Admiral Carter continued, engage the enemy. Make them remember this day. Make them remember what happens when humanity keeps its promises. The battle began with fire and thunder. The Keth fleet advanced in perfect formation, their weapons tearing through space like burning spears. The first human ship fell within seconds. The U's horizon exploded in a flash of light, its crew of 200 gone in an instant. But the humans did not retreat. They pushed forward, weaving between the enemy vessels, striking at weak points, refusing to give up a single inch of space without payment in blood. Captain Brooks drove the Resolute straight toward the center of the Keth formation. Enemy fire slammed against his shields. Warning lights flashed across every console. His ship was taking damage faster than his engineers could repair it. Shields at 40%, Cole reported. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12. We have lost main power to the 4 weapons array. Root power from life support on the empty decks, Brooks ordered. We need those weapons. The Resolute continued its charge. Around it, other human ships fell. 7 destroyed in the first 10 minutes. Then 11. Then 15. The Keth were grinding through the human fleet with terrible efficiency. But something strange was happening. The Keth had expected the humans to break and run. They had expected surrender after the first few losses. Instead, the humans fought harder with each ship that fell. They attacked with desperate fury, throwing themselves at the enemy with no concern for their own survival. High General Morkith watched the battle from his command ship with growing confusion. He had conquered many worlds. He had broken many fleets, but he had never seen anything like this. Why do they not retreat? He muttered. They must know they cannot win. His tactical officer had no answer. On the surface of the Velreni homeworld, Dr. Lisa Morgan coordinated the evacuation. Human transport ships landed one after another, filling their cargo holds with Velrani families. Children were carried aboard first, then the elderly. Then everyone else who could not fight Dotton Bastard Talus helped load passengers onto a transport vessel. His old hand shook as he lifted a young child to safety. Above him, the sky flickered with distant explosions. Each flash meant another ship dying. Each flash meant humans sacrificing themselves for his people. I do not understand, he said to Dr. Morgan. Why do they do this? We are strangers to them. We are nothing. You are not nothing, Dr. Morgan replied. You are the people who saved us when we had nothing. That makes you family. And humans protect their family. The transport ship lifted off, carrying 3,000 Velrani to safety. Another landed in its place. The evacuation continued without pause. In orbit. The battle reached a critical moment. Captain Brooks finally broke through the Keth defensive line and reached the enemy command ship. The Resolute was barely holding together. Half its weapons were offline. Its shields were failing, but it was close enough to strike. "Fire everything we have at their communication array," Brooks commanded. The Resolute unleashed its remaining weapons in a single devastating volley. The missiles struck the command ship's communication tower and tore it apart. For 11 precious minutes, the Keth fleet lost coordination. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation suddenly hesitated. Captains who had been receiving constant orders found themselves alone and uncertain. The humans used those 11 minutes to push deeper into the enemy formation. They struck at supply ships and fuel carriers. They targeted sensor arrays and shield generators. They caused chaos wherever they could. Admiral Carter watched the battle unfold and felt something he had not expected to feel. Hope. They were still losing. They were still outnumbered. But they were hurting the enemy far more than anyone had predicted. Then the Keth communication was restored. High General Mork's voice thundered across all channels. "Enough of this foolishness. Deploy the extinction array." Captain Brooks felt his blood turn cold. He had heard rumors of the extinction array, a weapon capable of destroying entire planets. A device so terrible that even the Keth rarely used it. "Sir," Lieutenant Cole said quietly, "they are bringing their superweapon online. If that thing fires, it will destroy the Volrani homeworld. Everyone on the surface will die." Brooks looked at his damaged ship. He looked at the handful of human vessels still fighting. He knew what had to be done. "All ships," he said into the fleet communication system. "New target. The extinction array must be destroyed. Nothing else matters." It was a suicide mission. Everyone knew it. But not a single captain hesitated. They turned their ships toward the weapon platform and began their final charge. The extinction array was a massive structure of black metal and pulsing red light. It floated at the center of the Keth formation, protected by dozens of warships. Its weapon systems were already charging, building energy that would soon burn an entire world to ash. 12 human ships remained. 12 vessels against the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. Lieutenant Amanda Cole calculated the approach vector. Her fingers moved across her console with desperate speed. The numbers told a terrible story. 7 ships will be destroyed before we reach the array, she reported. 5 might survive long enough to deliver their weapons. The probability of success is less than 20%. Captain Kevin Brooks did not hesitate. 20% is enough. All ships begin attack run. The human fleet charged toward the extinction array. Keth warships moved to block them. Weapons fire filled the space between them like a storm of burning light. The first human ship fell almost immediately. Then the second. Then the third. Admiral Carter's flagship, the UES Guardian, took a direct hit to its engine core. The ship began to spin out of control, flames pouring from its hull. Carter's final transmission was calm and clear. "Captain Brooks, you have command of the fleet. Finish this. Make it count." The Guardian exploded. Admiral Carter and his entire crew were gone. Brooks felt grief tear at his heart, but he pushed it aside. There was no time for mourning. Not yet. "Keep moving," he ordered. "Do not stop for anything." The remaining ships pressed forward. 8 left. Then 6, then 4. The Keth were throwing everything they had at the human fleet, but the humans would not stop. They absorbed punishment that should have broken any force. They kept flying toward their target with single-minded determination. High General Morkith watched from his command ship with something close to horror. He had seen many enemies die. He had never seen enemies like this. These humans did not fight for victory. They fought for something else entirely. Something he could not name or understand. "The array is at 90% charge," his tactical officer reported. 2 minutes until we can fire. Destroy those human ships, Morkith commanded. All weapons. All fighters. Everything. The Keth fleet focused all its firepower on the 4 remaining human vessels. 2 more fell in seconds. Only the Resolute and 1 other ship remained. Lieutenant Cole looked at her captain. Her face was pale, but her voice did not waver. Sir, we will not survive another 30 seconds. The Resolute is breaking apart. Brooks looked at the extinction array ahead of them. So close. So impossibly close. How much damage can we cause if we ram the array directly? He asked. Cole stared at him. She understood what he was asking. A direct impact from our reactor core would trigger a premature detonation. The array would be destroyed, along with everything within 10,000 kilometers. That would include us. Yes, sir. That would include us. Brooks pressed the ship-wide communication button. All hands, this is the captain. In a few moments, we are going to do something that most people would call impossible. We are going to stop a weapon that can kill planets. The cost will be our lives. I will not order anyone to stay. Those who wish to reach the escape pods have my blessing. No one will think less of you. He waited. The seconds passed. Not a single crew member moved toward the escape pods. Lieutenant Cole smiled grimly. It seems no one wants to leave, sir. Brooks felt his eyes grow wet. Then let us finish this together. He pushed the engines to maximum. The damaged Resolute screamed forward, trailing fire and debris. Keth weapons struck it again and again, tearing away armor and destroying systems. The ship was dying, but it was still moving. The other human ship, the UES Valor, took position beside the Resolute. Its captain, a young woman named Rachel Stone, sent a brief message. We will clear the path. You hit the target. The Valor accelerated ahead of the Resolute and crashed directly into the Keth defensive line. The explosion destroyed 4 enemy ships and created a gap in their formation. Brooks flew through that gap without hesitation. The extinction array filled his view screen. He could see the weapon's core glowing with deadly energy. 98% charged. Seconds from firing. All power to forward shields, Brooks commanded. We need to get as close as possible before impact. The Resolute smashed through the array's outer defenses. Explosions rocked the ship. The hull crumbled around them. Crew members were thrown from their stations. Brooks kept his hands on the controls. The weapon's core was directly ahead. It has been an honor serving with all of you, he said. Then the Resolute struck the extinction array. The impact was visible from the surface of the Volrani homeworld. A new sun seemed to bloom in the sky, bright and terrible. The explosion consumed the array, the Resolute, and 60 Keth warships that were too close to escape. Elder Vorith watched from the entrance of the underground shelter. Tears streamed down his face. He had just witnessed humans die to save his world. Strangers who owed his people nothing had given everything. Ambassador Talus stood beside him. Unable to speak. Dr. Lisa Morgan fell to her knees. She had known Kevin Brooks. She had eaten dinner with him the night before the fleet departed. He had told her about his daughter back on Earth. He had shown her pictures. Now he was gone, along with so many others, but the Volrani homeworld still existed. The weapon was destroyed. The planet was saved. Empress Istara received the news in her throne room. Her face went pale. The extinction array was gone. 60 warships destroyed. Her remaining fleet was damaged and scattered. Empress, High General Morkith said slowly, the humans have done what no one has ever done before. They have stopped our greatest weapon. Our forces are in disarray. I recommend immediate withdrawal. Zethar wanted to refuse. She wanted to order her fleet to continue the attack, but she could not. She had seen something today that terrified her more than any enemy she had ever faced. She had seen what humans were willing to sacrifice for strangers. "Withdraw," she whispered. "All forces, withdraw." The Keth fleet retreated into the darkness of space, leaving behind the wreckage of their ambition and the bodies of human heroes. 6 months passed after the Battle of Velrani. The galaxy was never the same. News of what humanity had done spread across every civilized system. Traders carried the story from station to station. Diplomats whispered it in council chambers. Children heard it from their parents before they slept. The tale of how a small, primitive species had sacrificed everything to save strangers, the great empires that had once ignored. Humanity now watched them with new eyes. Some watched with respect. Others watched with fear. All of them understood that the universe had changed. On the Velrani homeworld, Captain Kevin Brooks opened his eyes for the first time in 3 months. He was lying in a medical bed surrounded by strange machines. Blue light pulsed around him. The air smelled like flowers he did not recognize. A Velrani doctor leaned over him, her large eyes filled with concern. "Captain Brooks," she said softly, "you are awake. This is good." "Very good." Brooks tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. The doctor gave him water and waited patiently. "How am I alive?" he finally managed to ask. "Your crew saved you," the doctor explained. "Lieutenant Cole placed you in an escape pod moments before the impact. The pod was found drifting in the debris field. You were barely alive. We have spent 3 months repairing the damage to your body." Brooks closed his eyes. Amanda Cole had saved his life. He remembered ordering her to stay at her station. She must have disobeyed. She must have put him in that pod against his will. "Lieutenant Cole," he said. "Is she—" The doctor shook her head. "She did not survive. Neither did most of your crew." "I am sorry, Captain. You are one of only 8 survivors from your ship." Brooks felt his heart break. Amanda Cole had given her life to save his. She had chosen him over herself, just as all of them had chosen the Velrani over their own survival. Dr. Lisa Morgan visited him that afternoon. She looked tired but happy. She held his hand and told him what had happened since the battle. "You are a hero," she said. "Every Velrani on this planet knows your name. They have built statues of you and your crew. They call you the saviors." Brooks shook his head weakly. "I am no savior. I just did what needed to be done." "That is exactly what makes you a hero," Dr. Morgan replied. "You did not want glory. You did not want fame. You just wanted to repay a debt. That is the most human thing I can imagine." Elder Vorith came to see Brooks a week later. The old Velrani leader moved slowly, his body weakened by age and stress. But his eyes were bright with emotion. "Captain Brooks," he said, "I do not have words to express what your people have done for us. We are alive because of you. Our children will grow up because of you. Our civilization will continue because of you." Brooks struggled to sit up in his bed. "We did what you did for us 60 years ago. You saved humanity when no one else would. We simply returned the favor." Elder Vorith smiled. It was the first time Brooks had seen a Velrani smile. "You did more than return a favor," Elder Vorith said. "You taught the entire galaxy a lesson. You showed them that kindness is not weakness. You showed them that compassion can be stronger than any weapon." He reached into his robe and pulled out a small device. "This contains our complete database of agricultural and medical technology. Everything we know about growing food and healing the sick. We give it to humanity freely, with no conditions. May it help your people grow stronger." Brooks accepted the gift with trembling hands. It was worth more than gold, more than weapons, more than territory. It was the Velrani's most precious possession, given without hesitation to the species that had saved them. Far away, on the capital world of the Keth Dominion, Empress Azara faced rebellion. The generals questioned her leadership. Her subjects whispered in the streets. The defeat at Varani had exposed something the Keth had always hidden from themselves. They were not invincible. They could be beaten, not by superior firepower, but by something far more dangerous. By enemies who were willing to die for principles instead of profit. Within a year, civil war tore the Dominion apart. Worlds that had been conquered began to demand freedom. Generals who had served Zethara turned against her. The empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries began to crumble from within. Senator Gregory Lane addressed the Galactic Council one final time. He was old now, his hair white, his hands trembling. But his voice was still strong. The universe watched what happened at Velrani, he said. They saw humanity sacrifice itself for a species that could not fight back. They saw our ships burn in defense of strangers. And they learned something important. He paused and looked around the chamber. Representatives from 100 different species watched him in silence. They learned that power without principle is meaningless. They learned that the strongest civilizations are not those with the biggest weapons. They are those willing to risk everything for what is right. Dr. Lisa Morgan returned to Earth 3 years after the battle. She visited the memorial that had been built for those who fell at Velrani. It was a simple structure of white stone, set in a garden of flowers from both Earth and the Velrani homeworld. The names of the dead were carved into the stone. Thousands of names. Soldiers and civilians. Captains and crew members. All the humans who had given their lives to repay an old debt. At the bottom of the memorial, a single sentence was written. They remembered when others forgot. They gave when others took. They fell so that strangers might rise. A young boy stood beside his mother, reading the words. He tugged at her hand and asked what they meant. The mother knelt down and smiled at her son. It means that being human is not about where we come from, she said. It is about what we choose to do. These people chose to help others, even when it cost them everything. And because of that choice, the whole galaxy is different now. The boy thought about this for a moment. Then he looked up at his mother with serious eyes. I want to be like them when I grow up. His mother hugged him close. Then, remember what they taught us. Be kind, keep your promises, and never forget the people who helped you when you needed it most. Across the galaxy, humanity was no longer seen as a small and primitive species. They were known as something else entirely. The ones who remember. The ones who repay. The ones whose kindness could save worlds and whose loyalty could shatter empires. And in the hearts of every species that heard the story, a small seed was planted. A seed of hope. A belief that perhaps the universe could be better than it was. That perhaps kindness was not weakness after all.